This is how it began for me, the return of Godzilla. Or, as Americans know it, Godzilla 1985, the first of the rebooted Heisei Godzilla films, and the first monster movie I ever saw. Godzilla left a footprint on my psyche. I remember watching it in my parents' bed, alone on the VCR, wetting the mattress. I nightmared Godzilla. I would later watch all 33 Godzilla movies as well as countless kaiju and American beastie films. What was it about these type of movies that drew me in? What about monsters that swallowed me whole? I haven't really aged much in 35 years in my taste in cinema. This essay is an attempt to grapple with my monster movie madness. This is the definition of monster I'm working with in this essay. Serial killers, ghosts, vampires, and zombies have never really interested me, and werewolves only sometimes. This is not a defensible taste, but it is mine. I've only ever been drawn to the gargantuan, to the beastly, to the spectacle of a creature's head floating above a skyline as it wiggles down 54th Street, or as it sharpens fangs on people's bones, or as a monster decapitates skyscrapers. This is my personal, incomplete, and idiosyncratic investigation. Frank Dell'Ostrito, in his book, A Quaint and Curious Volume of Forgotten Lore, explains monsters thus: a more than human interloper enters a socially oppressive atmosphere, acts on his forbidden cravings, and attempts to combat ruling norms. Monster stories, in this view, are voyeuristic, and they reward traditions that keep leviathans thwarted. Monsters teach us what deities could do if upset, proving their ultimate power. During the Reformation period, monsters were seen as signs of God's wrath. Later British taxonomists called something, quote, monster when it exhibited different aspects of other creatures, such as with the griffin, the wendigo, Cthulhu, and Godzilla. Hybridity was the monster that blurred boundaries between animals and human, disrupting our place in the world. As sociologist E.J.W. Hines wrote, monsters, quote, simply define the outside limits of God's creation, reminding us of our normalcy and center, of our place in God's plan. Monsters prove that evil was in the world, that we were good. Monsters still serve that side of the brain, I think, that wants the supernatural real, that still craves a holy war on some level, that still wants humans to be warriors of good, battling the titans of depravity. My first monster film may have been Godzilla, but like many of my generation, the monster film that left the biggest impression was Jaws. My 3 older cousins, the kind that would grow into hard-drinking frat bros, showed me the film when they were babysitting, to grin as they watched me terrorized. I lived on Padre Island at the time in Texas and used to wear swim trunks just like the boy, Alex Kintner does, who gets eaten. I didn't know children could die in movies before Jaws. I'm not sure I even knew I could die. It's tame by contemporary comparison, but the fountain of blood that accompanies Alex's death scene sent me into a nightmare spiral that no movie has since replicated. I still chill watching it. Despite the fact that the shark is absent for half the film, and is sometimes pretty fake looking when it's present. Monsters, another theory goes, are a product of something called boundary extension. Show a person a fin, a trail in the dirt, or shadow, and audiences will fill in the rest. Our minds are hardwired to expand upon the world with imagination. When watching monster films, the limbic system does much of the heavy lifting, transforming shadows into blood-soaked phenomenon. Regulatory chemicals invade bloodstreams, contracting vessels, jacking up blood pressure, hearts beat faster, adrenaline floods the body. For many, this is a thrilling experience, a roller coaster rush in a theater. Maybe this is why I've watched Jaws over and over and over. It might not be for the experience even, but for the relief after that makes monster films so appealing. When one has survived a monster attack, life after is just a bit sweeter. Science writer David Quammen once wrote, quote, "Among the earliest forms of human self-awareness was the awareness of being meat. We're innately fearful of atavistic threats because once they weren't so imaginary. Among the bone fragments of our earliest ancestors found throughout the world have been claw marks and tooth holes." The Psychologist magazine reports that the amygdala, a brain region involved in fear learning, responds more vigorously in MRI scans to the sight of animals than to pictures of landmarks, tools, or even other people. The amygdala for thousands of years has kept our bodies in monster avoidance training. It still lives in a world populated by creatures wanting to eat us, which lived right outside our ancestors' homes and waited in the yards for a kill. Not having something stalking us feels weird, unnatural, in this view, and so we watch movies to relive what it's like to be prey, because in an odd way, we still feel that we are. Famously, Godzilla stuntman Haruo Nakajima visited the Ueno Zoo to watch bears lumber around and draw inspiration for filming Godzilla. The monster then became animal as much as it grew from them. I was a fan of monsters from a young age and have still felt that primal satisfaction in them, of seeing the world's limits stretched past their breaking. I think this is the forever 6-year-old inside me, marveling at mountains, food piles at state fairs, and romantic beasts. There's an innocence to monster ardor, harkening back to a time when the world was stranger, more open to possibility. This was something the Romans understood. He wasn't the first, but when Emperor Augustus opened the Colosseum in Rome, he claimed to have had 3,500 African animals do battle over 100 days. But these animals just couldn't be shipped in from nearby zoos. His soldiers had to hunt them down from thousands of miles away, including from India. He had shipped in bears, giraffes, elephants, lions, ibex, rhinos, hippopotamuses, and of course, tigers. Augustus and the other Romans had the animals fight against humans, eat prisoners, and just claw each other to death. In comparison, these beasts probably seemed akin to CGI alien creatures crash landing into Earth. Imagine if you've never seen an elephant before. Or a tiger. The awe that the crowd must have felt is something I believe akin to my first Godzilla experience. It seems a shame the Romans killed off so many animals. But then monsters often die in our movies too. We feel awe when they are alive, but some sense of relief when they are gone. One of my favorite monster movies is John Carpenter's The Thing. I love how it defies definition. It's humanoid, canine, cephalopod, amphibian, arachnid, and just weird. I didn't watch The Thing until I was 20 and my father was well into his stroke and cancer-riddled slide into dementia. When characters in The Thing are misshapen, seemingly not themselves, taken over by an alien being, this resonated with me because The Thing is what cancer is, kind of. An alien that invades bodies, takes over and twists them, but it's also somehow still themselves. The Thing reminded me of my dad. his twisted mouth, his inability to speak except in raspy breaths. Only you know who you really are. The other people have to watch as you change into something they don't remember. The thing isn't an easy experience for me. I don't teleport into a body with more power. I don't relive childhood nostalgia or experience awe. But The Thing is a powerful movie for embodying something I might otherwise want to keep behind closed doors, inside nursing care centers, to just wish would die.
What do we do? Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
The ending of The Thing has a kind of hope to it, I think. I know it's easy to see the two remaining men at the end as being aliens, but the reading I have is you just don't know. You could be next, or you could be The Thing right now. The world is cold and our fires are burning, but will soon die around us. We might as well pass a drink. Monsters are about frightening, yes, but sometimes they comfort and reveal what's inside. Sometimes they hold up a mirror. A researcher at Cambridge once wrote, quote, "How monsters have been created over the centuries is much more indicative of the moral and existential challenges faced by societies than the realities that they have encountered." In this view, monsters are more human than animal, more personal than spiritual, more us than not. Terry Eagleton famously opined that literature, and I take this to mean movies too, either challenges or upholds the social order. Monsters can do both. When defeated, they prove the righteousness of our systems, and when they persevere, they reveal inequitable norms. Monster, the term, comes from the Latin monstrare, meaning to demonstrate, and monere, to warn. Monsters reveal and caution, unveil and advise. And they have done so throughout history. From Gilgamesh and Beowulf to Jaws and Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg, harkening back to the cinematic history of monsters, overlaid his shark's death with the mournful call that he used for the demonic truck's death in Duel. Which was the cry of a Tyrannosaurus Rex in 1957's The Land Unknown. Monsters have a way of repeating. 2016's Shin Gojira is an allegory for the Japanese government's ineptitude following the 2011 triple earthquake, tsunami, nuclear disaster, just as 1954's Godzilla warned of nuclear annihilation and gave voice to nuclear trauma. Jaws warned of human hubris just as Jurassic Park did in Jurassic World. The Babadook reveals the demons a parent can face just as Rosemary's Baby did. David Quammen opines that we create monsters because we need them to feel less lonely. He writes, quote, "The universe is a very big place, but as far as we know, it's mainly empty, boring, and cold." As long as humans travel this universe, we'll probably imagine monsters to fill up the spaces between ourselves and the stars. To terrorize, to warn, to remind us of who we are. And that no matter how far we think we may have traveled from our origins, we're still pretty close.